The year is 1842. Queen Victoria has been on the throne for 5 years. Charles Dickens is at the height of his powers, publishing Barnaby Rudge and about to embark on A Christmas Carol. The Great Exhibition is still 9 years away. And on the evening of Wednesday, April 6th, a police constable in Wandsworth is about to stumble upon something that will change British policing forever, all because of a missing pair of trousers. Police Constable William Gardner of V Division was conducting his regular patrol of Wandsworth High Street when a pawnbroker reported a theft. A pair of black trousers had been taken from his premises. The item was of modest value, the kind of petty complaint that constables handled daily. 2 young assistants from the shop offered to accompany Gardner to a nearby estate where the suspected thief was employed. The 3 men walked approximately 2 miles from Wandsworth to the Sheen estate on Putney Park Lane, arriving at roughly 9:30 in the evening. The estate buildings were closed for the night. Gardner entered the stable block and conducted a search by the light available to him. He was looking for a stolen pair of trousers. He was not looking for anything else. The stable smelled of hay and horses, the ordinary smell of a working stable at the end of an April evening. As Gardner's eyes adjusted to the dim light, something beneath a pile of hay caught his attention. At first, he thought it was a plucked goose. But as he moved closer, pushing aside the hay with his hands, the truth revealed itself in all its horror. It was the limbless, headless torso of a woman. The stomach had been opened. The remains bore the marks of attempted burning. The torso had survived the flames, but little else remained. The head, the arms, the legs, all were gone. And at that moment, Daniel Good, the stable's coachman, was standing right there, watching. Good moved with the speed of a man who had been waiting for exactly this moment. He passed through the stable door, drew it shut behind him, and secured it from the outside. Constable Gardner and the 2 young men from the pawnbroker's shop found themselves locked in a dark stable, the partial remains of a murdered woman at their feet, while the man who had put them there vanished into the night. The historical record tells us almost nothing about Jane Jones as a person. Her date of birth is not established. Her place of birth is not documented. The names of her parents are not recorded. Her early circumstances, her employment prior to 1839, and the path by which she arrived in London are all absent from the surviving records. She enters the documented world in approximately October 1839, when she took lodgings at number 18, South Street in the district of Manchester Square, London, a lodging house of modest means. Witnesses described her as a plump person and rather dark in complexion. No further description was entered into the surviving record. Within 6 months of her arrival, Jane Jones had entered into a domestic arrangement with Daniel Good, a coachman employed on the Shile estate. She began using the name Jane Good, adopting his surname in the manner common among working-class couples who lived together without legal marriage. This was neither unusual nor remarkable in the London of 1839. Legal marriage was expensive and administratively complex for those without means. The adoption of a partner's surname carried social intelligibility, even without legal standing. Jane Jones lived under the name Jane Good for approximately 3 years prior to her death. She is charged in the court record under that alias. She is known to history under her birth name. Daniel Good's domestic situation was complicated by the existence of a legal wife, known only as Molly, from whom he was estranged. The marriage was a legal fact, and its existence meant that Jane Jones could never be Good's lawful wife, regardless of the name she used. By early 1842, Good had turned his attentions toward a third party, Lydia Susanna Butcher, a single woman residing with her parents in Woolwich. The existence of this new attachment had introduced friction into his arrangement with Jane Jones. Some accounts also suggest Jane Jones may have been pregnant at the time of her death. What Jane Jones was doing on her final day, Easter Sunday, April 3, 1842, the record does not answer. No witness testimony documents her final hours. No statement attributed to her survives. The killing itself is not documented with certainty. What the subsequent medical examination established was that Jane Jones died by violence, that the killing occurred at or near the stable block, and that the acts committed in the aftermath were carried out by the same hand that killed her. The head was separated from the torso. The arms and legs were separated from the torso. The stomach was opened. Good then attempted to burn the remains within the stable itself. The attempt was only partially successful. Then he waited. For 3 days, Daniel Good continued in his employment, going about his duties as if nothing had happened, while the partial remains of the woman he had presented as his wife lay concealed beneath hay in the stable under his charge. Then came the evening of April 6th, and the pawnbroker's complaint, and the discovery that ended his concealment. The Metropolitan Police had been established by Sir Robert Peel in 1829, only 13 years before the events of April 1842. It was a force still finding its operational form. Its jurisdiction was administered through a series of divisions, each responsible for a defined geographic area. There was no plainclothes detective capacity within the force. The concept of detective work was regarded with public suspicion, associated in the popular mind with the spy police tradition of France. 9 divisions of the Metropolitan Police were set in motion following the alarm raised by P.C. Gardner. But Good had crossed the boundary of the Metropolitan Police District almost immediately after his departure, passing from Surrey into Kent. Once Good crossed that line, the Metropolitan Police had no means of pursuing him. As one memorandum would subsequently note, the police had no means of getting immediate cognizance of a suspect once he had crossed a parish boundary. The result was a manhunt that became the laughingstock of London. Day after day, the newspapers reported the progress of the pursuit and the lack thereof. Good stayed consistently one day ahead of his pursuers. The trail led from Roehampton to Spitalfields, where Good had connections through his estranged wife, then to Deptford, then to Bromley, and then into Kent. The arrest of Daniel Good did not come through police work in the conventional sense. Good had, during his flight, adopted the alias James Connor. He found employment as a laborer on a building site near Tunbridge Railway Station. A man working alongside him recognized him, a former police officer who had previously served in Wandsworth. The former officer informed the superintendent of the Southeastern Railway Police, a man named Humphrey, who arranged for Good to be brought to the Angel Inn in Tunbridge under the pretext of an offer of refreshments. When Good removed his cap, the distinctive bald crown of his head, described in his wanted poster as notably bald at the crown, was visible. Superintendent Humphrey arrested him at that point. The fugitive, who had confounded 9 divisions of the Metropolitan Police for 10 to 14 days, was caught by a former officer who happened to be working at the same building site. Daniel Good's trial commenced at the Old Bailey on May 13, 1842. The presiding judge took his place on the bench. The charge was stated as the willful murder of Jane Good, alias Jane Jones. Good entered a plea of not guilty. The prosecution's case rested on several pillars. The discovery itself, Constable Gardner's visit to the stable, the finding of the torso, and Good's conduct in locking the constable inside and departing, was presented as the conduct of a guilty man. The domestic history established the existence of the relationship and the setting within which the crime occurred. The medical testimony of Benjamin Wright established the fact of death by violence and the post-mortem character of the dismemberment, and the conduct of the defendant in flight, the sequence of concealment, the assumption of a false identity, the attempt to find work at a distance from the crime, was presented as conduct consistent with guilt. The defense did not challenge the evidence of the discovery or the medical findings. Good's position was that Jane Jones had taken her own life, driven to it by the conduct of Lydia Susanna Butcher. The medical evidence did not support this claim. The jury deliberated for approximately 35 minutes. The verdict was guilty. The judge donned the black cap. The sentence was pronounced. Daniel Good was condemned to be hanged by the neck until he was dead. On Monday, May 23, 1842, Daniel Good was executed at Newgate Prison. A crowd assembled to witness the proceedings. Contemporary reports described the crowd as assailing the condemned man with considerable hostility. Good died by hanging at Newgate. He was buried within the precincts of the prison. The case did not end with Daniel Good's execution. On June 14, 1842, Commissioners Richard Mayne and Sir Charles Rowan addressed a formal document to the Home Secretary. The memorandum, titled Relative to the Detective Powers of the Police, set out the problem the Good case had exposed. The police had been unable to pursue a suspect who had moved beyond the Metropolitan Police District because the force had no means of getting immediate cognizance of him once he crossed those boundaries. The memorandum proposed a remedy. 2 detective inspectors and 6 detective sergeants, selected from among the best officers within the force, were to be drawn from their divisional duties and constituted as a new branch of Scotland Yard. These officers would be dedicated to the investigation of serious crime, operate in plain clothes, and work across divisional boundaries. On August 15, 1842, the formation of the detective branch was formally announced in Metropolitan Police Internal Police Orders. Inspector Nicholas Pierce was appointed to head the new branch. Inspector John Haynes served as the second inspector. The first detectives included several veterans of the Good Investigation. The detective branch of 1842 was the first dedicated detective unit in the history of British policing. Nearly 40 years later, it would become the Criminal Investigation Department, or CID. The institutional lineage that connects the 8 men appointed to Scotland Yard's plainclothes detective function in August 1842 to the structures of British criminal investigation as they exist today is unbroken. The case that created Scotland Yard's detective branch is named for Jane Jones. But the woman at the center of it remains almost entirely undocumented as an individual. Her origins are not known. Her family is not known. Her age is not established. Where she was born, where she was raised, what her life had been before the lodging house at Manchester Square in 1839. None of this is recoverable from the surviving record. The record preserves her in a handful of references. A plump person and rather dark. A lodger at a particular address. A woman who lived under a name that was not legally hers. The charge in the proceedings against Daniel Good. The subject of medical testimony. The name on a verdict. It does not preserve her as a person. The record is insufficient for that. The burial place of Jane Jones has not been established. Whether the remains that Benjamin Wright examined, the limbless and headless torso recovered from beneath the hay in the stable at Putney Park Lane, were ultimately interred somewhere, and if so where, is not documented. The record ends before that question is answered. The case of Jane Jones entered the permanent record of British policing in 1842. It has never left. A stolen pair of trousers, a stable, a torso in the hay, and a fugitive who ran just far enough to expose the fault lines of an institution. These are the elements that created Scotland Yard. And at its heart, the case bears the name of a woman who has no voice in the record, no life beyond the documents that describe her death, and no marker to tell where she lies. Jane Jones, the murder that created Scotland Yard, the woman history forgot,